morning, everyone. Welcome back to this 7th session on the series of webinar of ABC of Cybersecurity powered by CXO Junction in association with iValue InfoSolutions. We are extremely thankful and grateful to know your support and love that you have for this ABC of Cybersecurity series, wherein we are covering an array of topics within the field of cybersecurity, that is from letter A till Z. And now today's session will be having on the topic of phishing resistant multi-factor authentication, that is MFA, which will be covered by none other than Mr. Alex Wilson, who is the Director Solution Engineering at Yubico. After then, we'll be having an amazing fireside chat between Mr. Alex Wilson, Mr. Pranav Bhayani, who is the head pre-sales at iValue InfoSolutions, and our very own Mr. Gaurav Batra, who is the founder and CEO of CyberFrat and about iValue. So iValue InfoSolutions is a premium technology service and solution aggregator. They adopt a consulting approach for enterprise digital transformation around application lifecycle management to address emerging business needs in a hybrid multi-cloud model covering CAPEX and OPEX needs. iValue is proud to have served over 6,000 plus customers across the industry vertical through 900 plus partners and direct alliances with 65 best breed of technology OEMs. And the solution partner of our today webinar is none other than Yubico. So talking about Yubico, they are the inventor of YubiKey, which is a security key which makes secure login easy and available for everyone. Millions of individuals in over 160 plus countries rely on YubiKey to protect their accounts, and companies like Google, Facebook, Twitter, and the US state government itself rely on their technology to keep their employees secure. They are a multinational, fast-growing company offering an opportunity to bring your ideas to life with the global team. So I would now like to hand over the stage to Mr. Alex Wilson from Yubico to throw the light on the topic. So over to you, Mr. Alex.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Very pleased to be here presenting to this audience, and post-COVID, hopefully that's all gone away. I will have a chance to revisit India again soon. We're going to present a topic today. I just want to make sure we have technology working here. So I'm going to share my screen, which is this one. If you can just please confirm that you can see the screen.
Yeah, Alex, your screen is visible.
Excellent. Okay, so the title of the topic today, and I'm going to speak for about 20 minutes before we get into a fireside chat, is something that all of us do every day. From the first time we look at our mobile phone, from when we come into the office, if we go to the office nowadays, or if we connect remotely, is about authentication. Title of my topic is Securing Your Digital Identity with Phishing-Resistant Multi-Factor Authentication. I look after the technical aspects of Yubico across the Asia Pacific and Japan region. And we do have a small team running across the region. And I've been with Yubico almost 7 years now. So let's continue. Make sure I have the slides moving forward. Here we go. Okay, very briefly, and I hope that this is the only slide that talks about Yubico. And it's important when we get to phishing-resistant technology that someone invented this technology, and that happened to be us. One of the goals of Yubico is providing simple and secure access to your internet services, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. And we have done that through the invention of a physical security key. And that's something that we did back in 2007. Around about 2013, 2012, we invented a authentication protocol that was the foundation for phishing-resistant technology that is now available on most of your common platforms, whether it's Microsoft, Google, Apple, Facebook, whomever. They all now support phishing-resistant technology for authentication. The names have progressed over time, and where we're now at is the term passkey. So passkey is the term that it's based on the FIDO protocol, which is phishing resistant. So let's continue. Why do we need multi-factor authentication? Well, the number one problem across all of IT is the ability for malicious people or attackers to steal login credentials. And once they've stolen those login credentials, generally they're doing bad things with it, whether it's introducing malware. Historically, it just used to be bragging rights, and people would say, hey, I broke into organization X and look how good I am. Now they no longer do that. They may deploy ransomware. They may just sit quietly in the background and watch what's going on in the organization, or they may extract information and then sell it to the highest bidder. The effects of these credentials being stolen are wide and varied. The best way to protect against this type of attack is having two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, which are interchangeable. Username and password is not enough. Any form of two-factor authentication is better than none. However, more recently, over the past 10 years, phishing attacks, and we'll talk about what phishing is as we go through this presentation. Phishing attacks are becoming much more popular. So they keep targeting the credential, because once they get the credential, they just log in. If we have a look at the industry itself, is phishing the only thing that's causing this problem for stealing credentials? No. However, it far outweighs any other form of crime against individuals who are authenticating properly into their organization. Phishing now is becoming a service, and there are phishing as a service, software as a service style things that you can go and purchase on the dark web that will emulate almost any website that you want to then attack. They only have to get it right once, and then subsequently they get into your network. So cybercrime being reported most often is phishing attacks. So let's think about what's specific to the India market and what's happening within the India market. Someone's writing on my screen, so hopefully you can clear that off. Yeah, interesting. Let me see if I can clear. There we go. So let's come back to this. So, and I'll hide that off the screen now. My apologies. There we go. So attackers don't hack in. Generally, they log in. The India ransomware report that came out in April this year, based on last year's activity within the India market, explicitly calls out phishing as the major pivot point for network initial access. So yes, there is unpatched services out there where you could potentially deploy malicious code to. Unpatched services, there are ports that may be open, but generally the attackers look for a credential, because once they're into the network, if they want to do lateral movement or movement across the network, having a valid login or trying to get a privileged login is much more effective than just trying to attack a port. So the Indian ransomware report from CERT India specifically calling out phishing as an initial vector of attack. Now, also the state police focus on phishing and try and provide some best practices or advice to individuals when you are logging into a site. Now, the messages that they call out specifically there are good. However, if you're a non-IT person, I expect you would not know what a URL is, because it's just sometimes gobbledygook. And having to look at a website and figure out, hey, it looks like the real website, and so I'm just going to log in. It can be quite difficult for non-IT people to look at a website and understand that it may be malicious. So let's go into what phishing attacks are. So India leads in MFA adoption, and I specifically call out Thales from a report they've done across the Indian market, focusing on MFA adoption, which is a good thing. There is wide use of SMS or phone-based two-factor authentication and potentially security keys, but generally it is either Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, or one of the other ones. There are specific tokens that could be issued by financial institutions. So adopting the initial wave of two-factor authentication is very strong in India, and it is much better than Australia and in the US. So that adoption is good. However, most of that two-factor or multi-factor authentication adoption is based on a convenience factor. And when I say convenient, I mean it's either just been given to you, so you haven't made the choice, or, hey, can you set up two-factor authentication on your mobile phone? Generally, yes, or we can send an SMS to your mobile phone because it's the most convenient thing that you have today. However, as an organization who has invested heavily with the infrastructure, whether it's headquarters for remote access, managing devices, cloud-based access, authentication somehow is passed on to the user themselves. So the security of the network, whether it's the administrator, staff, contractors, or partners who are accessing all of this core data, you have deferred that responsibility to them, and they have to make up their minds whether they're getting phished or attacked rather than you protecting them. Because once they have a credential, they're coming in as the real person. Okay, so let's think about phishing specifically, and this is the technical component of this presentation, and thinking about how does phishing work and how does the bad person do what they do. So generally, you will get sent an email, an SMS, or some kind of notification through WhatsApp or some other communication channel, where they're asking you, hey, your mobile number seems to have been changed. Could you log into the website and just update your details or check your details? Or there seems to be an unusual transaction on your account. Can you please just log in and check the details of the transaction? Or, hey, I need some information from you. We've been communicating before. Could you just log into this page and check your credentials or check your information? So the victim gets a phishing notification, and they generally are asked to click a URL or a link, and you are brought to a fake login page. As a user, you think that login page is what it says it is, because the malicious person, generally their focus is on fooling you into giving up your credentials to log in. So as a user, you would enter your username and password. The attacker has captured that information and sent it to the real website. So let's say we're going to a banking application. I'm logging in through my browser. I've gone to my bank and it looks like my bank. So I put my username and password in. The attacker is presenting that website as a fake website. They capture your details because they're in the middle, and they replay your username password to the real website. The real website says, hey, this user is logging in. The username and password is correct. Send them an SMS. Send them a push notification. Ask them for a one-time password. So the victim, oh, good, yeah, that's normal. I need to provide my one-time password. So the victim supplies the one-time password into the fake login page. The attacker replays that to the real website and has logged in. They've used the real username, the real password, they've used the real one-time password, and they now have access to the web site, to the correct site. The victim, they've just been possibly sharing, yeah, thank you very much for your login. Oh, we have a small problem at the moment, come back in 5 minutes. Or, oh, your credentials were incorrect. We need to reset you. You know, the attacker will just send information to the victim to either keep them hanging on or to make them think that everything is okay. The attacker then changes the two-factor authentication to their own two-factor authentication, or changes the password, or immediately filters the account. They could do a number of things at this point, but the credentials are lost. Yep, the attacker successfully logs into the real site and game over at that point. So let's think about modern phishing-resistant technology that has been invented around about 2013. The FIDO Alliance has developed that capability, and now all of the software vendors out there and hardware vendors are adopting this technology. So what changes? So the victim is still sent a phishing notification of some description, and the victim clicks the link, comes to the web page, and the web page, yep, it looks like my bank. It specifically, yeah, it looks good. There's a login button. I shall click on the login button. The attacker gets the username and password at this point, and they enter it into the real website. Now, because we have phishing resistant authentication as a second factor, the browser, the client, the real website, asks for FIDO-based authentication, which involves a cryptographic exchange with the credential that the user has. Now, that cryptographic exchange initially says, okay, you are trying to log in with the FIDO credential, but you do not have one, because the attacker itself does not have the credential. The victim has the credential, but it is the attacker who has the client portion connecting to the real banking site. The FIDO protocol, the phishing protocol, has two core components to it. One is origin ID, and one is token binding, or session binding. So it recognizes man-in-the-middle attacks, and it also recognizes that this user that's coming in does not have a token that can authenticate to the site. The attacker could ask potentially the victim to insert their key, but the key itself and the credential will say no. The victim is talking to the fake login site. It will say, that is not a website I recognize. You are not logging in. So there is no user action that can occur with this phishing technology. As it progresses, the attacker does not steal the second factor. The attacker does not log into the site, and the attacker goes somewhere else. So when it comes to the phishing component, the attacker is unable to provide the credential. You cannot fool the user into giving that credential because the cryptography takes over. Unsuccessful login by the attacker. Phishing resistant is something that's new to the market. As I said, it's been around now for 10 years, but only by all of the vendors over the past 3 or 4 years. Microsoft has certainly led the way with the most recent FIDO2 capabilities. Google, Apple are all fully supporting this capability. There is a FIDO Alliance, and their goal is to remove the need for passwords, make authentication secure, and make it easy for everyone. So asking a user to understand the technology and whether they're being phished or not is difficult for non-IT people. So technology companies have to solve this, and we are solving this with passkey or FIDO-based authentication. So my last slide from this part of the presentation. Organizations say, hey, I've already got two-factor authentication, and the burden of responsibility and the cost is all with the user. However, if attack happens, the burden and responsibility is with the organization. The next question is, this costs me money to change? Yes, it does. However, the benefits can outweigh the cost. Now, I talked about the FIDO Alliance in the previous slide. Yubico, with the YubiKey, is not the only manufacturer to make this capability. There are many vendors out there, all with different price points and all with different trust or supply chain. There's a whole raft of capability out there to adopt phishing-resistant technology. It just so happened that we invented it, but that's by the by. If you're driving towards a more secure environment, a phishing-resistant environment, please utilize the phishing-resistant technology. Now, what are some of the byproducts of this if you do go down there? The one on the left, this is purely from Google. There are research papers out there. There was one that came out in 2015, and then another one that came out around 2020. Both reiterating where account takeovers do not happen if you're using security key or passkey technology. The second component, the piece on the right, if you are adopting this, if we can start to reduce the reliance on passwords, the support reduction is the key kicker from a financial aspect. What is the benefit of introducing this technology? What does it solve? If you're not having users having to reset passwords, having to issue replaceable one-time password capabilities, if I lose my phone, what do I do? There's a whole raft of benefits down the track. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand it back to the moderator. Thank you. And I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Alex. I think great presentation and great content. So this is a new concept, definitely. And before we move forward, maybe I would like to invite Pranav as well on the screen. So hi, Pranav. Pranav, you're on mute.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, hi all. Good morning.
Morning and
good morning.
Pranav, I think great presentation by Alex, and
thanks, Alex.
So on that note, taking it further, if I ask you, like, how, as per your experience, or why you think the FIDO-based MFA is more secure than the traditional MFA?
Okay, let me break it down to absolutely ABCs, the basics of it. And Alex actually explained really the ABC part with the diagram. I was intrigued by that. You see, when a user is trying to log in, he needs to remember that username password, which has been going since, donkey's years. Like, we've been using the username password, and we accidentally enter a website which looks very similar to our original website. And this is where the whole fun begins. Fun from the other side, not from my side at least. And what happens is, it could be a phishing link, an email where you have clicked it. It could, the letters look so similar that an L and an I for a particular font and an O and a 0 on a particular font on a website looks very similar. So you enter the credentials, username, password. So our mind is actually trained to do it that way all these years, and you naturally fall prey to it. And that's where the whole problem starts. So this is not really a nice way to do. The second problem which happens is, we're surrounded by apps. I think in one of my previous presentation, we had this. We are surrounded by so many apps around us, and it's easily possible for a regular human being, not a really IT savvy, regular human being to again enter a website and then follow the same mundane routine and fall prey to it. Vis-a-vis the FIDO base, you really don't have to worry, remember, care about those username, password techniques, what you've been trained. And it's something like in a token, a physical token, which you're having with you. So that's something with you. Now, this particular parameter cannot be shared with somebody else because it's physically with me. So password is being shared to an website or a service, but the physical token is with me, and it relies on a public cryptographic algorithm. So when I insert that token or tap the token, the whole thing works so seamlessly, and you could do it even without really being so mindful about it. Because where you are not mindful, those problems starts. Here you don't have to be mindful, and you could be more productive somewhere else. And the biggest problem is the account takeovers. We could easily remove the account takeovers, which is contributing to 70 to 80% of the attacks. We can easily overcome that using this FIDO-based technology.
Okay, awesome. And Alex, just moving to you, and I may like to hear some use cases from you on this. But before that, for my audience, guys, please, give your all questions in the chat box. I will be taking that after 10 minutes, one by one each. We already have one question over there, and we'll just look into that. So yeah, Alex, over to you.
Thank you. There was, I'll jump into use cases in a moment, but the Q&A from the audience is also very good. One of the first question I saw there was around remote robotic process automation. And I'm sorry to say that the FIDO Alliance and the protocol is specifically trying to solve the password or authentication problem. There are many other problems within IT, and there's many things that this protocol does not do. But it's all about the user and the user being present when you're authenticating. There is a touch component or a biometric component that must be in this authentication process, which guarantees that at least a person with a pulse, you could take your pussycat and shave the cat's paw and potentially hold that against the key. I haven't tried, but you must have someone in the human presence when you're authenticating. So it's very important, and it's been designed for user-based authentication. Another key difference from the phishing-resistant technology as to traditional forms of authentication is privacy. There is no shared secret. So if I register a FIDO key against a Microsoft site, and I registered the same key against a Google site, there is no information sharing. There is no tracking of me. The only way it knows that I'm coming back in is when I present the key and it says, yep, that key is you. So there's a whole privacy aspect about the individual, which is different to the history of authentication, which is all about, as an administrator or an organization, I control what you use for second factor. And that's one of the key differences. So that was good. And if there is any more questions, happy to take them as we go. Use cases, would you like me to just discuss a couple of use cases, or I can talk about financial industry, I can talk about a variety of different industries. What would you like, Gaurav?
Yeah, we have many different type of audience here, from finance, manufacturing, anyone. So if you can, just provide some use cases in different industries, that will be really helpful. Yeah.
Certainly. I'll start high level, then I'll specifically go down to what I've got two locally at scale. What I think is at scale is about 25,000 users each. So, and that's some things I've done within Australia specifically. One is banking, one is retail. But at a high level, authentication is everybody's problem. We do it all the time. But we have this sense that, well, it's a bit of a problem and we've got a support infrastructure and we've already got a lot of sunk cost in that process, so let's not touch it. The malicious attackers are kind of going, no, we're going to touch it. And you see ransomware coming out all the time. You see data breaches coming all the time. And that is why. So there has to be a slight mind shift to say, okay, there is something new. It can solve this problem. Let's see if we can move towards that. So authentication is everybody's problem. If we come down to a couple of use cases that I've been involved in, one is a large Australia, but there's 4 major pillars of finance in Australia. And if we talk about one of the larger ones, about 5 years, they came to me with a authentication challenge. They were moving down an identity and access management route, hundreds of applications, many different forms of authentication, and they wanted to go forward. They chose an identity and access management platform. We don't do those things. We do authentication. And across their 50,000 users, they wanted to uplift security for 2-factor authentication. So this was going to be a journey for them, and it still is a journey, but they implemented, as it happens, the YubiKey. And if we're thinking about authentication in multi-factor or 2-factor, we have to consider the user experience. We don't want to make it harder for them. We don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. We want the project to go as smoothly as possible, incrementally increase security, but make the user feel comfortable. So one of the technologies we deployed, which was not phishing resistant 4 years ago, was an OTP-based protocol where the user still enters username, password, and then they stick the key in, touch the key, and it generates a one-time password. So we just added one step to their authentication. Time has now progressed, and the back-end systems now fully support more of these FIDO protocols. The same key supports that protocol. So users are now moving to a more passwordless based authentication and phishing resistant with the same token. Still enter username, password, because that's familiar to them. One of the benefits is they no longer rotate the passwords on a 30 or 60-day life cycle. They're moving them to a 120-day life cycle because the second factor authentication is much more secure. And they're now moving down to this passwordless or Microsoft back-ended system with this capability. So that's one. They have about 25,000 keys in deployment. The other 25,000 users are using software-based authenticators because it suits them, and that's fine. Any form of 2FA is better than none, but not all 2FA is created equal. I'll pause there and I'll hand it back to Gaurav. And yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Alex. I think great use cases. So maybe, when we are implementing these MFAs in the organization, so Pranav, you have a great experience on that part. So what are some best practices you will like to share for implementing and maintaining MFA in an organization?
Sure. It's a journey, firstly, so not a single stop somewhere. But it's important that an organization highlights that, firstly, who are the privileged users. And whenever we talk about identity, we need to start from a point. So I would suggest start from identifying the privileged users or critical users and remote users and fix that identity over there. And then gradually consider enrolling all the users across the organizations, whoever is accessing any form of services where authentication. So that's the first strategy of identifying, laying your privileged users and then moving across the organization. Secondly, user awareness has to be driven, that it's not an optional thing, actually. It's not a convenience factor over here that you want it or you don't want it. It's not something like that. It's something where user awareness has to be created, as well as a support system has to be created, because some of the users who are not that tech savvy in the organization might have a small amount of hitch. So support. The third aspect in the user part is the convenience factor, which Alex just touched upon. Don't make it too complicated. Click here, go there, do this and all that. So user would say, hey, it's not working. So the convenience factor. So that comes from a standardization of things. So that's the second area. And the third practice is, it's not like it's done. So after every few months or maybe once a year, reevaluate your MFA strategy, consider how much was the usage and the new services which are implemented down the year, and then reconsider the strategy and keep on doing this periodically. So 3 steps to do kind of an best practice, I would say.
Can I just comment?
Sure.
So just basing on that as a foundation and just adding some other aspects, if you do implement two-factor authentication and your support tickets do not go down, then you've got something wrong. So the two-factor authentication should make life no harder for the user to authenticate. And I'm confident that you're all paying for people to sit at the end of a phone on your help desk, take calls. My password needs reset. I've lost my phone. My USB fob is gone, something. Trying to reduce cost and remove the need for support of that process. It takes a little bit of mind shift, but we are all intelligent and we can do these things. So it just takes a little bit of focus to say, well, why don't we make it easier for the user and more secure and protect our organization? So yes, choosing a convenience factor is fine until it breaks. If you've got the user's phone with a one-time password and that account is hacked, which leads to a data breach, who is liable? Who is liable? Is it the user, your employee with their phone who was fooled, or is it the organization? So if you have to provide cyber insurance, you should consider these things. Yeah. And then users go, well, I don't want to use my phone because I'm responsible. Give me something to do it. Okay, let's give you a specific device or a specific capability that's designed for authentication. I'll hand it back to Gaurav.
Sure. Thanks. I think, Alex, you have put a great perspective to that. And one of the important questions which generally people ask for about these MFA tokens as well, that how we ensure the security and integrity of the same. Maybe if you can put some highlights on that as well.
Yeah, excellent. So through the ages, if we think of organizations who have built trust in the industry through supply of a product, there is a number that's out there. The iPhone, if you think of the Apple device, most people trust the inherent security of that. And that's whether it's geekish or whether it's the biggest bling out there, but you just expect it to be secure and trusted. In authentication, historically, RSA have been making a one-time password physical token for about almost 40 years now. And you mostly trust that thing and the technology behind it. How do you gain that trust? Well, you gain that trust through your actions and also proving a number of different things. So from a Yubico perspective, we own the whole process. We source our components from Germany specifically and some Asian countries, and we validate all of those componentry. We build the product ourselves. We own the manufacturing machines. They're custom built manufacturing machines that make the physical tokens. We do not outsource that. We program the keys ourselves, and then we ship them to our trusted distributors, such as iValue, and that is our supply chain. So we source the components ourselves, validate the components, manufacture, program, package, and ship as a company. That is our whole focus. So that's the manufacturing chain. And it's secure manufacturing as far as we're concerned. The separate thing is that what we do is we certify the product. So we are FIPS certified, we are CSPN certified, and these are the highest level of certifications that's available to a device such as us. So our security of the device, the manufacturing of the device has been validated. And lastly, we respond appropriately to critical vulnerabilities. Everybody suffers a critical vulnerability if you're writing software. a human has to write it. So eventually something went wrong or something changed. So historically, we've had one or two. The last one was probably 5 years ago. And we document it, and we follow industry best practice around notification and the correct process to resolve the problem for our customer. And that builds trust. And that is why we believe we are one of the most trusted providers of these products in the market today. So I'll stop there.
Sure. Thank you. And to take this last question further, and before, I will take question from audience, I request everyone, please start putting your questions in the chat box. And here, Pranav, maybe, to start with you, how do you handle MFA for privilege accounts and high-risk transactions?
Okay. Privilege accounts, by the name itself, they have some kind of a higher privilege, and they would have really rights to access the system any given point of time. Let's say an admin user, he could log into the system any given point of time. Some of the key privilege users could change configurations, change the data, all that is possible. So in my strategy as well, I mentioned target the privilege users first. And in the journey, identify who are the privileged users across the, let's say, the ecosystem of your application services, target them, and then see, integrate that not just with MFA, but have a complete identity management as a posture. And that would include a couple of other technologies to go in hand, like an identity management solution, a privilege PIM solution, a PAM solution, even SSO for a situation if it demands. So evaluate that rather than considering MFA in a silo situation. Then what would happen is day end, the privileged user is also a user, and the user psyche would come into picture. So I would say as a comprehensive identity management area, include the SSO part somewhere, include the onboarding of the users, and make it as seamless journey as possible by targeting that. And the latest in that area, in this identity piece, is the adaptive MFA. And that's something which is kicked in the last few years, not adopted really too well. 2 bits on that adaptive is, it's based on a little bit of an historical factor. The system calibrates that how many times did you log into the service in the last 10 days or 20 days, and how many times did you actually fail in the first attempt. So it gives you a threshold value, and then how many times are you coming from that same laptop or the same mobile phone. So the GeoIP, the device ID, all that is calibrated, and then a threshold is built. If you breach that threshold, then you would be given a very stricter way of authentication, but otherwise you could slightly make it a liberal way of authentication, just to put it in a simpler words. So that's adaptive way of this. And you could introduce this MFA that as in when you cross some thresholds, you might need to enter 3 or 4 folds of authentication, because I think this is too suspicious. This time of the day, I mean, midnight, Pranav logging in on a different laptop, I really don't trust. And otherwise from my same laptop, every time I pass it, so then it's okay. So that's a comprehensive strategy could be made in an IAM, and maybe in some forthcoming session, we would consider that as a topic to consider the whole identity piece.
Sure, definitely. And Alex, you like to add something on this?
Yeah. I always have something to add, I'm sorry.
Please. Yes.
Yes, over the past 5-8 years, I have been seeing this concept of adaptive authentication or contextual-based authentication, which is the history of that is coming from, hey, we're getting phished, we're still getting data breached because we're using one-time passwords as the best thing we have available. It's not the most secure thing we have available, it's the best thing we have available. So we've added all these other things around it. That's the same process as passwords. When we started with passwords, then we had dynamic passwords, and then we had password rotation policies, complex passwords. So we took what we started with, which wasn't a security principle, and ended up with something that just got in the way of users logging in. Same with contextual or adaptive. it's got good information. Yes, if I'm coming from a different site, it should be obvious, block that person. But the reason we're doing it is because we don't trust the authentication. Let's step back, trust the authentication because it's cryptographically secure. It's in the public domain, and you can trust that cryptography because you can go and check it yourself if you really want to. So yes, but in some situations, definitely the adaptive authentication is a good thing. For the privileged question earlier, step-up authentication, I think, starts to address that. So I've got a user logging in and they're now accessing a database or a different service that goes from restricted to confidential or confidential to restricted. I should re-challenge the user or ask for an additional different authentication. And that's like a step-up authentication. Now, whether it's step-up authentication, identity management, or single sign-on, which are all good things, they are all after authentication. And really, the identity platforms provide that service. When it comes to MFA, it's all about the user. The user shouldn't have to care about those things. I'll pause there.
Sure, Alex, I think great. And Rajesh is asking, excellent answer and approach. Which tool do you use?
Which tool for what? Sorry, I'm gonna.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Shall I?
Yes.
Do you want me to just try and answer some of these questions? And maybe it helps. The YubiKey or the security key. The security key, which I explained earlier, is made by. It's an open standard protocol. You implement it, you can get your device certified. If you want to go make one yourself, you can do so. And if you implement the protocol, you can get it certified. Now, once you have it certified, you can use that on multiple services. Depending on how much memory you have in your little chip on there, you can use it on Microsoft. I can also register it on Google. I can register it on Facebook. I can register it on X, which used to be Twitter. There are many services out there, and you can register the key against that service, either as a second factor or as a whole factor, MFA. So hopefully that answers that question. So yes, can the YubiKey security key work with multiple devices? Yes, it can. Thank you. I'll try and catch some of the questions. I'm not excellent answer. I'm not sure what tool do you use. I'll probably ask Rajesh to ask that. I want a tool for capturing the authentication based on location map. Right, I do not, and I would. That is contextual or adaptive authentication. I would hand it back to iValue to if they have a product that they recommend.
Yeah, we do have certain solutions which work on this adaptive method or contextual method. So as I said, based on the history, the track records, the location, things like that, it would keep changing the behavior. Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the solutions do have it.
Good. So we'll wait for another questions to come in. So meanwhile, guys, thank you for joining in, and I'll request all of you to provide your feedback as well learning, which we say on the LinkedIn post, so that everyone gets to learn that what you have learned from today's session, and we will be spinning it for OnePlus in the next session of ABC, right? So right now it's a knowledge check time. So let's say from the Alex presentation, what you have learned today, it was great talking to you, Pranav and Alex. So stay with us for the another 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see if more questions coming in.
Happy to, if more comes in.
Yeah. So meanwhile, let's check what they have got from your presentation as of now. So Atharva, can we have your share screen and Kahoot quiz open? So yeah, everyone, we also have the LinkedIn link here. Request you to put your learnings. Make sure you are getting eligible for the next Wheel of Fortune. Okay. So here is the Kahoot link. I will request you all to join in, and let's see what you have gained from today's session.
So just while Gaurav, can I just comment for a moment?
Yeah, sure, Alex, please.
There was a question in regards to One Cosmos. Any feedback on One Cosmos? One Cosmos looks like a identity proofing system. Provides identity and authentication using block. Reusable verified identity. They possibly use FIDO. Let me see if they use FIDO. There are many identity platforms out there. Yeah, they talk about FIDO authentication with One Cosmos. So yes, with One Cosmos, you can use the FIDO protocol, which is the security key, which is on the Yubico. I don't have a feedback about the product itself, but they support the industry standard. Pure ID as well. Yes, they support FIDO as well, as far as I can tell. Just confirm. Let me see. Yeah. Not sure. Yeah. All right, I'll keep reading, and hopefully the.
Okay, maybe you can have a look, and we can do that after the Kahoot. So just it will take us 5 minutes, and so let's start a Tharva. So we have 50 people here. So everyone, quick 6 questions. Let's see who are the 3 lucky winners today. And so as you know, it's the fastest finger first. You need to go fast as possible. Which of the following method is used most to steal login credentials? So everything you have seen here is from Alex's presentation. So that's the source. So answer per that. Okay, awesome. Let's go next. FIDO compliant security key. Okay, awesome. 38 people giving the right answer. Let's move. What can be implication of a data breach? 3 more questions to go after this. Awesome. Okay, Gokulam has been maintaining his position at the top. Awesome. Which of the following attack must have took place in Twilio data breach?
Now that's a difficult question because that slide I did not share.
Okay, let's see. Then, okay, still 13 people managed to go well on that. Okay. Okay, some out of syllabus question too. Okay, that was over 80% of hacking vulnerabilities use what? Awesome. Last question. What is the tagline of Yubico? The key to trust, the key to the password, key to safe storage, or the key to the data? This is, I'm expecting most of you need to give the right answer, right? Awesome, 37 people. So let's have a look quickly to who are the winner. Himanshu, congratulations, Yogesh and Kaushik. Congratulations to the winners. Okay, quickly, Atharva, let's spin up for the Wheel of Fortune from the last ABC session. And guys, please comment your learnings on the LinkedIn link again. So guys, please put that in. And by the time we have this Wheel of Fortune coming in and people are giving your learnings, we can quickly spin it up for the last session. Let's see who is going to win the OnePlus phone. So this is, guys, going to happen every week when we have this session. So here we have Hegde's Subarao. Congratulations, Subarao. So are you on this call? Okay, before we move, if you are not on this call, we need to spin it again. So let me know if you are here. Quickly, I'll just wait for another 5 seconds. If you are here, just say you are here. Okay, let's spin it again, Tharva. Okay, here it goes to the Prakash Kumar Ranjan. Congratulations, Prakash. Prakash, you are here.
It looks like he's still connected. But is he listening?
Yeah, okay. Prakash is there. Hi, Prakash.
Yeah,
okay,
well done.
congratulations, Prakash.
Congratulations.
Okay, congratulations. Okay, guys, thank you. So guys, we have put the lesson learned here, link on the LinkedIn as well. Please just provide your learning. So Alex and Pranav, any last comments or any last words before we say bye bye to everyone?
From myself, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk. I get paid to talk a lot, so it's always good. And hopefully we learn something about authentication. It's always easy until it's not, and then it stops working. So
yeah. So it was really an interesting session as usual. And I really like this concept of ABCs. We start from the initial building blocks and then take up all those mammoth tasks of building the security infra. Step by step, we could do it. And yeah, thanks, Gaurav. Thanks, Alex, for this wonderful session.
Sure. And
Thanks,
everyone, so
participants.
it was great session and great talking to you, Pranav, again, and Alex. Wonderful having you on this platform. So everyone, for your session, if you want to get the CP certificate, the feedback form is given, and once you fill that, automatically you will get the certificate for today's session. And the link is active for another 30 minutes. Please get your certificates. If after that, if you need to write back to the team of ABC to get you that. And yep, thanks for sharing your ID, Alex. Yeah. And Pranav, so guys, if you have any want to connect directly with Alex or iValue team, just let us know and we will arrange that for you. Until then, take care, be safe, and I will see you in next ABC session. Bye-bye.
thank you.